Hi guys, welcome to Flash Fact. Today we're going to take a look at the user interface, or UI as it's usually referred to. We're not going to look at everything. Essentially, this is going to be the first in a series of videos because there's way too much ground to cover. There's no way we can cover it all. So let's get started. To the top left of the screen, we can see the name of our character, Master Miracle. To the left of the name, we can see the number 30. That's the level of our character. Essentially, the levels in DC Universe Online go from level 1 to level 30. Once you reach level 30, you get what is known as the combat rating. That essentially effectively become your level after that. You can see the combat rating to the right of the name Master Miracle. You can see the number 93. That's the combat rating of our character. I have a handful of videos that refer to the combat rating, so I'll refer you to those. And underneath the level 30, there's a little spiral thingy. Essentially, that's telling us that our character is in controller role. There's three different roles in this universe online. There's the controller role, there's the healer role, and there's the tank role. Well, there's also the DPS role, but everyone can be DPS. But for the other role, you can only be one of the three. Depending on the power you use, you're going to have a different role. In the case of our Mr. Miracle, he's a controller because he's using the gadget powers, and the gadget powers are either controller or DPS. The healers will have a little heart, and the tanks will have a little shield. That's how you can tell them apart. And if you want to switch role, you just go up on the D-pad, and you can see on the action menu, switch role. Again, I won't go through the action menu. We'll probably make a video just for that. So let's switch roles. So you can see underneath the number 30, there's a little flame that appeared. Essentially, that's telling us that our character is now in DPS role. If we want to switch it back, again, we go up on the D-pad, we go switch role, and our friend is switching role again to the little spiral thingy. Underneath the name of the character, we have the health pool of the character. So that green yellowish bar underneath the name, that's our health. If you want to see the actual value, you have to go into your inventory, into your stats, and you can see the actual health of our character is 10,304. And if we look at the power underneath, because the power is the next thing we're going to look at, the power underneath is 4,556. So if we go back, again, you can see underneath Master Miracle, you have the health, and the blue bar is the power of our character, which we just saw, which was 4556. And underneath the power, we have right now it's an empty bar, but it's something that is known as the Supercharge that we have to fill as we fight. So as you see, there's a bit of orange that filled my empty bar. Essentially, I fought the combat dummies a bit in order to fill my bar. And so the more you fight, the more your bar will get full. And depending on the supercharge you're using, some supercharge will need 100% of your supercharge bar. Some supercharge powers will need only 50%. Some will need only 35%. So depending on the supercharge, you'll need more or less of your supercharge to use them. I made a handful of videos about the supercharge, so I'll refer you to those in the description below. And also to the top left corner, what you will see often is what is known as the buffs that your character has. Sometimes you will see little symbols that will appear underneath your supercharge bar. These little symbols usually are buffs that your character has. I don't think I'm going to be able to show you all of them with this character because certain buffs have to do with the tank role and certain buffs have to do with the healer role. But I'm going to show you the buffs that are related to the controller role. I might do another video at some point with a healer, or I would suggest that you watch some videos with some of my healer characters or with some tank characters if you want to see the various buffs that those roles can give your character. The first buff that our controller can give to the players is what is known as the power over time. Essentially, the power over time gives power to your character. So essentially, you can see once the controller casts this power over time, underneath the supercharge, you see a green lightning bolt that appears. That green lightning bolt means that essentially right now the power over time is going. Again, you can see the green lightning bolt underneath the supercharge bar. There's also other buffs, like there's an attack buff that our character can have. In this case, if I use the defibrillator, you can see there's a little targeting symbol in green that appears underneath the supercharge bar. That means that my character has an extra attack for a short while. So as long as the attack buff is there, it means that my character has a little extra attack. And right next to it, you can see a little starburst that appears. Normally, controllers and tanks and healers don't have that little starburst. It's usually DPS that have that. The reason why my controller has that is because in his gloves I have a white mod that gives me 10% extra damage after using a superpower. So whenever I use a superpower, because of the mod in my gloves, I get 10% extra damage. But usually it's something that is there for the DPSs. I will switch to DPS, it'll probably make a bit more sense. So as a DPS, whenever I use one of my powers, I will get that little green star burst underneath my supercharge. It usually means that I'm getting some extra attack with my character. And if you want to know how much, you can see that in the power descriptions. You can see the power description to the bottom, you'll see like damage roll. That's the attack buff that I'm talking about. Usually the first one, the early powers will give 35% extra damage. Then we will move on to 40% extra damage. Then we'll move on to 45% extra damage. And usually the bottom row will give 50% extra damage. There's a few exceptions that might give a 60%, but that's the exception of the exception. And again, the mod in my gloves from my DPS character, if you're a DPS, it gives you 60% extra damage, and if you're not a DPS, if you're a healer, controller, or tank, then it gives you 10% extra damage. So as a DPS, whenever I use a power, that little starburst gives me 60% extra damage. But if I'm in controller role, and if I have the mod that I just showed you, then as a controller, I will get 10% extra damage whenever I use a power. And you can see also the same things on our enemies. If you can see, like right now, I'm targeting one of the sparring targets, and you can see at the top of the screen, you can see the enemy that I'm targeting. In this case, it's known as the sparring target. You can see the combat rating of the enemy, which is 126 combat rating. And I'm going to show you a few of the debuffs that my character can use. The first debuff is a defense debuff. You can see there's a small red shield that appeared underneath the sparring target. Essentially, that means that I've lowered the defenses of the character. So whenever I use, essentially it's my Gauss grenade, I'm lowering the defense of the enemy. So I'm putting that little red shield on the enemy, which means that his defense is not as strong as it should be. One of the other debuffs you can apply to an enemy is what is known as the healing debuff. So essentially you can see a little red heart underneath the sparring target. What that says is that if the sparring target had some abilities that would allow him to heal himself, it wouldn't heal as much thanks to the healing debuff. The little heart is useless against enemies that do not heal, so it's an ability that you use against certain enemies only. And there's also what is known as a damage debuff. Essentially, you can see underneath again the sparring target. Oh, you can see that little red targeting symbol. So it means that as long as the red targeting symbol is underneath the name of the sparring target, it means that the sparring target will do less damage if he attacks our character. Essentially, it's not unlike when we cast a buff on our character. You can see the buff essentially is a green target underneath our name, and the debuff is a red target underneath the sparring target. So the green means that we have extra attack when we attack. When we have the green thingy, our attack will be stronger. And when there's the red target underneath the sparring target, it means that his attack will not be as strong, will be weaker. So that should cover the debuffs. To the left of the screen, we have the chat window. I have a video that explains specifically what how the chat window works. So I'll put a link in the description below to if you want to have more information about the chat. To the bottom of the screen, you have the what is known as the ability tray or the loadout tray. So you can see we have essentially 6 powers that are selected. Each character can have 2 loadouts, one for controller and one for DPS. Essentially, if you want to have a look at the loadout, you go to traits and then loadouts. And you can see the controller loadout, which is the loadout I have right now. You can see the damage loadout, which is the loadout I would have if I switch to damage or DPS. And in the case of this character, there's a third loadout that is known as the stealth loadout. Essentially, it's not every character that has that loadout. You need to be able to have access to the stealth ability, and you must have purchased the stealth ability. So in this case, if I go into to my powers, essentially I purchased the stealth ability, so that's why I have access to the stealth loadout. So if I go into stealth mode, you can see my loadout is a little bit different. And if I come back out of stealth mode, again I'm back to my controller loadout. And then every ability tray has the 7th ability is essentially your colas. So that's the cola you have equipped right here. The colas is the only thing you can equip in that slot. Colas are consumable, I should say. So anything that is a one-time use, like the compound cola over here, that's where you need to equip it to use it. And on the other side, you have what is known as the trinket slot. There's various trinkets. There are trinkets that will give your characters more attack, more defense. Some trinkets will have various abilities, or some trinkets will, like the one I have right now, essentially summons a little drone if I want to. And if I don't want the little drone, I can unsummon it by holding the button, and the drone will be gone. So we're going to use our friend, the Night Robin, in order to be able to look at the experience bar. So you can see underneath the ability tray, underneath your loadout at the bottom of the screen, you see that purple bar. That's the experience bar. So once your bar is full, essentially you're passing to the next level. So right now our character is level 3. Once the purple bar will be full, our character will go to level 4. So the purple bar at the bottom of the screen is how we can tell how close we are to our next level. That sadly only works up to level 30. Once we get past level 30, the experience point no longer matter. What matter is the skill points. Once you reach level 30, if you want, what you can do is you can go into your settings, into your UI, and you can change it so that it shows your skill point progress in ability tray instead. So we're going to put that at on. And as you can see now, our purple bar is now a green bar. So essentially that tells us how far we are from our next skill point. We can see the very same bar if we go into our deeds, our feats. You can see at the top of the screen, just underneath feats, you see feats to the next skill point. That means essentially we're at 75 of 100 up to our next skill point. Once we reach 100, we'll have our next skill point. And again, if we want to change it back, you just go back to settings, UI, and we'll turn it off. And now we're back to our purple bar that shows us our experience points. To the right of the screen, you have the quest tracker. Essentially that is used to be able to keep track of what your next quest will be. And usually it will give you hints of where to go for your next quest. So essentially, right now it's telling me go to Gotham Wasteland to continue your mission. Essentially, you can see when you see a mission like this where there's a little X on it, that's the mission that's selected on my quest tracker. So if I go, let's say, to another mission, let's say explore Wayne Legacy, you can see the quest tracker changed. It says now go to Gotham to continue your mission. So to the right, essentially, your quest tracker will tell you where to go and what to do. And to the top right of the interface, you have what is known as your minimap. Uh, that alone will require its own video. There's a lot of things to discuss about the minimap, so it'll be much easier to tackle that with its own video. And of course, there's quite a few other things that we're going to cover later on. If we go into the option menu, there's quite a few tabs. Like if we go into settings, there's the camera tab, there's the control tab, there's the targeting, the gameplay, the UI, the audio, the video, the voice, the chat options, the key binding, the schemes. So as you can see, there's a lot to cover if you want to go through the whole interface. So I'll probably do a handful of videos, maybe not a video for each thing, like the camera and the controls and the targeting. I can probably do a video with all of those. But the UI by itself will require videos. The gameplay by itself will require videos. So I'll make various videos as needed for the various things. The same with the quest tracker. I'll probably make a few videos, at least one video just about the quest tracker, and I'll probably make also a video about the minimap. And I already have a video about things like the supercharge. I already have videos about that. I already have videos about the chat box. I already have videos about the combat rating. So again, I'll put a description in the, I'll put various links in the description of the video. So if you want more information about those things, you can go there to look those up. So that was Flash Fact for today, guys. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.